Why hello there, and welcome back to SWTOR Short Rest, Zine Quest Edition. And in this episode I will be looking at Knights of the Road, a game from this year's Zine Quest, and one of the very few that I backed at a physical copy level because it comes in these three tiny little booklets, which I think is kinda neat. So in Knights of the Road, you basically play as adventurers traveling the railways of a fictionalized version of the American West in a fictionalized version of the American 1920s, like with monsters and stuff. So I'm going to turn things over to disembodied hands, and let's take a closer look at this thing. Alright, so as I mentioned, it is in three little booklets, which, as I said, was kind of a selling point for me, and it's kind of interesting because unlike a standard zine, which is just a game in a zine, this is kind of like a mini version of Dungeons & Dragons. You have your player's handbook, your Dungeon Master's Guide, and your monster manual, just all very, very tiny. So let's start with the main book, and let's make us a character. So to make a character, we first open the book to character creation, and we roll 3d6 for each of our three stats: Vim, Sense, and Wit. So let's do that. 11, 9, and 6. Now that is more like the characters I'm used to rolling up. And then after rolling, we can switch to if we want to, but I'm as happy with these as they are as I would be if any of them were switched. So moving on, we also roll up or choose a name and roll or choose a starting set, but we will get to that in a little bit because first I want to roll our dumb luck, which is 1d6. And is 5. Good, because I rolled horribly on everything else. And then we also get 1d6 starting gold. It's starting cash, not gold. I realize I said gold out of habit. Point is, $6. Now for our character's name, we roll on the name structure table with a d6. So 6 acts and name, then a d12. 1 kg. That was a 4. Sue. So our character's name is KG Sue. Now moving on to starting set, which is basically class, and we roll a d6 on that too, and a 1. So our last job was a gambler. Our gear is a 45 special and a deck of cards. Our talent is lucky as hell, and our lucky charm is loaded dice. And of course we could spend our money on some other equipment, but that is basically it for character creation, and yeah, let us move on to the rules, which are actually on the next page. Okay. So let's say that KG Sue wants to jump on to a moving boxcar. That would be a test of Vim, so we roll a d20, and since our roll is equal to or under, in this case equal to, our Vim score, that means we succeed. Now, combat is a little different. So let's say that on that boxcar, KG Sue encounters, I don't know, a jackalope. So basically, if we want to attack the jackalope, we just roll our damage, and I would probably need to know what that is, which is 1d6, and it looks cool. So we just roll 1d6, and we take 3 from the jackalope's luck. Now that is the second interesting thing, is that in addition to not rolling for attacks, damage is rolled first against luck, and then against Vim. So basically, in a conceptual sense, when either you or a monster are attacked, you are not being hit, it is just your luck is avoiding the hit, and as you avoid more hits, your luck goes down, until you take a hit to your Vim. So let's just say that this vicious jackalope has gotten us down to 0 dumb luck and then attacks us again, dealing 4 damage. Wow, that was a good roll for the jackalope. Our Vim is 11, so that would knock it down to 7, and then we need to make a roll on our Vim. And wow, boy howdy did we fail that. We failed that a lot. Ooh, wait a minute. Hold on. Talents. Alright, so our talent as a gambler is lucky as hell, can reroll any die. So let's reroll this. The talent is a thing you can use once per session. So our lucky charm also lets us reroll a roll once per day, so that one's an 18. Okay, so failed, and we are now out of the fight because we failed the Vim check after taking damage to our Vim. And that is basically the mechanics. They are incredibly simple. Now, one interesting thing I do want to mention is the scar system. Basically, if you get knocked down to 0 Vim exactly, you roll on this table and something interesting happens. Like a 9, which means that you make a wits save, and if you pass, increase your max wits by a d6. If you go below 0, you're dead, but if you hit 0 exactly, you get to increase one of your abilities, possibly. And also, that's also how advancement works. Basically, when your character advances, you get to choose one of your attributes and roll it again, and then if your new result is higher, you get that. So let's say that after an adventure, we tagged our tag on a water tower, which is how you level up. And then let's say we wanted to increase our wits because our wits is 6. So we'd roll again, and hypothetically, if we had rolled higher than our score, we would get to keep that as the new attribute score, but I am rolling on fire in this video. So, little book, in addition to the core rules, it does include information for hired hands, so you can hire yourself some hands, vehicular combat, which, you know, in a tiny little book like this is definitely something. And yeah, that's about it for the core rule book. But then we also have the Conductor's Guide. And in the Conductor's Guide, we get some tips on role-playing, a random quest generator. So let's just play with that. Let's say, what's our quest? Our quest is a local merchant whose business is about to close because of there is a strange glow in the eastern sky at midnight every night, which is caused by debt collectors using monsters to scare townsfolk into paying up. But the Pinkertons are in town hunting us. And our reward is $4d6. So there's that. And then there's also some information on the fictional Western states, because this is a fictionalized version of the United States. And a little map, which is cute. And a series of little random encounters that can occur in each of the different Western states. A little example of play, and that's it for this book. Finally, the Monsters of the Rails, which just has monsters of the rails, like skeletons, and railmen, and Bigfoots, hodags, silent mountain cougars, jackalopes, green man, mothman, all the things that you want in this sort of game, I guess. As I said, it's a very tiny version of Dungeons & Dragons. There's a tiny amount of character creation and mechanics, a tiny amount of Game Master stuff, and a tiny amount of monsters. I really love the whole thing conceptually, and it's enough for a complete game. Everything is written fine, and as I said, I absolutely love the way that it is presented in these tiny little books. And for some reason, I don't know, I really, really like the way the pages are laid out in the little monster book. I think it is super cute, and The art is not like the best. It is a little rough, but it is rough in a charming way. And that was The Knights of the Road. A cool little concept. I like the idea of taking the basic concept of Dungeons and Dragons, that you're just wandering around looking for people to pay you to kill things, but transplant it into a fictionalized version of the American West with, railways and some American folklore creatures and also vampires and skeletons and just the things that everyone loves. The character creation is, it's a little minimal. I like the naming table, but overall it's just kind of meh. And same for the mechanics, nothing really spectacular. I do, as I said, like the idea of your hit points being luck instead of your ability to withstand damage. It is an interesting, different way of looking at the concept of hit points. There is more content than you would expect for something like this. It is written fine. Some things are like a little bit overly abbreviated, presumably to make them fit into the tiny books. And as I've said multiple times, I like the way they look, I like the art in them, and I really like the 3 tiny book format. So overall, just a quirky, fun little game, especially if you were lucky enough to get the limited number of physical copies like I did. Alright, so that is it for this game, this review, this video. And thank you for watching, with extra special thanks to my Flail Snail level patrons, Samuel Gorski, Randy Mulholland, and SC Woolridge. If you'd like to be cool like them, check out my Patreon, where you can get early access to videos and fun stuff that I make for the Patreon. And if you don't want to do that, that's cool too. You can still hit all the lovely buttons, like, subscribe, these other videos, which I don't know where I'm going to put them yet, but they will be somewhere on the screen right now. I am sure they are lovely videos that you will also enjoy. And I will see you next time.